Hamburg, Arkansas, a small town in the southeast corner of the state. A small, quiet town whose biggest claim to fame is Scottie Pippen, though most locals aren't a big fan. Having grown up here, I can honestly say that Hamburg is a boring place to grow up, and hardly anything interesting ever happens. It wasn't until I was a senior at Hamburg High School that I heard of an incident that made the town much more intriguing. My English teacher told my class about a crime that happened in the 1960s that my grandmother had actually written a paper on in college, so I went to her for the details. However, I forgot much of the incident over the years, so I recently spoke to my grandmother again. Unfortunately, she was recently admitted to Baptist Health in Little Rock, Arkansas. Given her state, she preferred not to be filmed, and I respected her wishes. With her was my grandfather, and after talking to them for a few hours, I learned much about the crime. My grandmother told me that in 1964, Bessie Maudine Deggs was kidnapped from her home, raped, mutilated, and killed right outside of Hamburg by a man that was working nearby. During the confrontation, Miss Deggs burned the man on his stomach with an iron. She said that one of Miss Deggs' sons ran to tell a neighbor that a black man had taken his mother from his house. My grandfather mentioned that a huge countywide search took place in light of the news. There were cars down every road and people on horseback looking for the man that kidnapped Miss Deggs. Fascinated by the case, I wanted to learn more, and my grandfather told me about the state archives there in Little Rock. After a wild goose chase, I finally found the building containing the archives. After browsing the microfilm library, I found a few articles on the case that told me more about the crime. A week after the murder, the local county paper at the time, the Ashton County Leader, had the full details about the crime. The article confirmed all the details about the murder that my grandmother had told me. At that time, there was no lead on the suspect. As I continued my research, I learned that Miss Deggs was found naked from the waist down, and her head was crushed. With so many differences in the specifics about the murder weapon, I don't know exactly what it was. But the most common weapon mentioned was a double-end wrench found near the body. As far as the mutilation is concerned, I couldn't find any proof in the newspapers. I don't doubt my grandmother, and I figure that the specifics were too gruesome to mention in the paper. After all my research, the incident still felt like just a story to a certain degree, so I decided to visit the grave of Miss Deggs. She and her husband, who died in 2009, were buried in the Antioch Cemetery in Hamburg. It didn't take long to find it, but when I did, it all felt more real. The talks with my grandmother and the words in the newspaper all of a sudden became reality. It took all of this to realize that Hamburg was more than a quiet, boring town. This murder, as gruesome as it was, gave the town intriguing history that led me to learn more about the place where I grew up. After all this research, it's safe to say that not everything is as it seems.